Let me pull up. Today is 6:20. You guys didn't have any trouble joining the event today, right? Everything was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
All right, awesome, cool. Just want to make sure no one's having any technical issues. All righty, so welcome ladies and ladies so far to another session of USA Nationwide Business Networking. It's a pleasure to be here with you on another networking event. This event specifically is a nationwide networking event, specially designed to help people grow their business within the United States. And today is Tuesday, June 20th, and this event will be from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, hosted by your very own Forward Business Coalition. So pretty much our agenda for today's event is we're going to, as soon as we get through this quick introduction, which is a little quick PowerPoint slide, just kind of covering some of the basics, we'll go ahead and jump right into networking, where you have the opportunity to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your business, your products, your services, and anything else you think is relevant to your introduction. You pretty much have like around 60 to 90 seconds to go ahead and do that. Then following that, we will provide you with an exclusive business training, something that we've created, especially here at the Forward Business Coalition for you ladies and gentlemen that are on the call, so that you can get a little bit more, training, a little bit more tactic, a little bit more hacks and stuff, so you can improve the results that you're getting in your business. Usually, we provide some business advice, but usually you'll find that some of this advice is applicable across different areas, whether it's your social life or your health and different things like that, because we are in this community, committed to success in every area. So it's usually a little bit of fun. And then we also open up the discussion so that you guys can provide a little bit of feedback based off of, your own experience, your own thoughts and things like that. Following the exclusive business training, we go ahead and jump right into testimonials. So if you are, closing deals, if you're generating referrals, if your business is growing specifically from being a part of this networking community, we definitely love to hear that. We're not jealous of your success, we're inspired by it. But if you don't necessarily have any testimonials from the community or from the network, then we also open up the discussion for you to talk about any, big wins that you have inside or outside of your business. If you're celebrating, a big success, maybe you just closed a big deal, or, you're expanding to a different country or whatever it may be, we definitely love to hear about it and, show you support in any way that we can. And usually around 2:50, 2:55 p.m., we go ahead and wrap up the meeting. We usually reserve the last 5 or 10 minutes for customer support. If you guys have any questions about how can I join, the private networking group, which is the Global Business Alliance, or how can I, attend other networking events, or how really can I just get more involved in the networking community that you guys already have established, we usually reserve the last 5 or 10 minutes for those questions. Welcome, Brenna. All right, let me go ahead and switch to the next slide. So some general housekeeping rules, if this is your first time joining. Number one is give more than you take, right? So we believe in maintaining a high quality community, a high quality networking group, right? I'm pretty much just as part of this community as much as you are. So I definitely, I get referrals, I get, clients, I generate sales and word of mouth and stuff like this from this community just as much as you guys do. And I definitely like to, go to a place where I feel comfortable, where, I feel like the value is there and I'm meeting quality people. And one of the ways that we've been able to maintain that since we started this community and stuff is by essentially giving more than we take, right? I'm not saying that you guys can't ask. I know that people are coming, to these events from different positions or, places in life and stuff. So we're definitely here to support you. But if you can also, for my kind of rule of thumb is for every one ask that I take or that I get from people, I usually try to give 3 gives, right? So I try to help 3 people for every one ask that I have. Now, that's just a good rule of thumb. You guys can try to follow it, but definitely at least, just try to give more than you take, because we find that, again, it maintains the quality of the group high, and we continue to, get referrals and things like that. We continue to grow our businesses. The second thing is zero tolerance policy for negativity. There's really no point to be negative on these calls. We just find that negativity is counterproductive to, to getting results and stuff. It just kind of, you dwell, you play the victim and all these different things. And it's just, we really never get anything done at the end of the day, right? So what we want to do is we want this to be a place where we're productive, and people are coming here with the right mindset and stuff. So we just please ask that you don't bring negativity to these calls, because again, it's just really counterproductive. Number 3 is just pretty much self-explanatory. No false promotions, illegal advertising, etc. Just kind of goes without saying. Number 4 is don't spam other guests via email, text message, or any other method. People are going to be posting their contact information here so that people can reach out to them, schedule one-on-one calls and things like that. We just ask that you please don't spam other people, because it's not really welcome. We do encourage you to reach out to people, to schedule those one-on-one calls or to call them or email, whatever it may be, so you can learn more about each other's business and find those opportunities to collaborate. But just kind of don't spam people. And then number 5 is, post your contact info in the chat. That way other people can reach out to you. This event is essentially designed to just get your foot in the door with other business people, right? We're not here to necessarily, sell or, just kind of tell them our whole life story. We're just here, just like any other meeting. We're just here to build connections, establish relationships, get to know people, promote our business a little bit, and have fun. So yeah, definitely post your contact info in the chat. That way other people can reach out to you. How to become an ally. So we actually have a private networking group. If you guys aren't aware, right now you're on one of our free networking calls. So this call we do every Tuesday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, which is our USA Nationwide Business Networking event. We do have other free networking events happening every single week. We're actually in Canada and we're looking to expand to Mexico. But last time I checked, the laws in Mexico are a little bit different. So, it's not really, you definitely want to have someone there to be able to kind of guide you, or at least I saw that there was nuances. We have to like establish a company and things like that. So it's just a step-by-step process, but we definitely have a presence already all across the US. We've expanded to Canada and we're looking to, to go into the next country. But with that being said, we do have free networking events that, you guys can attend. Every single week we have USA, like I said, happening every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Right after this call, we actually jump into nonprofits nationwide networking. So if you're someone that, likes to collaborate with nonprofits, or, you serve that vertical, then definitely, you probably want to attend the call that we have happening right after this. And then on Thursdays, we also do our Canada nationwide business networking. So same thing as USA, but just for Canada. And then right after that call, we do real estate nationwide networking. So it's really good for you, ladies and gentlemen, that are participating in that real estate industry, whether you serve them or you're, directly a vendor or something, that you can, you check out that call. Fridays, we also do a weekly digital marketing Q&A. So for those of you that want a little bit of marketing advice, definitely check that out. I host that call myself, for my company Lapras. Very valuable, 1 hour jam-packed, filled with value. So definitely check that out. So that's pretty much kind of like the basics of kind of like some of the free networking events that we had. A few months ago, we actually used to host like 50 networking events in the day and 50 networking events in the evening, throughout the month. And we literally hosted like over 100 events, but we've kind of like recently cut back and just kind of really focused on, our private networking group, which is called the Global Business Alliance, which is kind of like what you see on your screen now. So we're actually running a special promotion for those of you, ladies and gentlemen, that are interested in, participating in a private networking group to, get more referrals, more support, belong to a community of like-minded people and establish, relationships. You get access to a ton of resources to help you grow your business. We're currently running a special promotion right now where for the first 30 days, you can try it out for $1 only. And if you feel like it's a good fit, after the 30 days, it's pretty much like a monthly plan where you can, for an investment of only $89, you can, stick with the program and you get access to all the resources and things. So far, 100% of people that have gone through the program or the community have generated over 100 referrals in less than 72 hours. We've had some people generate close to 400 referrals in 72 hours. So it really depends on like the nature of your business, like the type of services and things that you provide, but it's definitely, the real deal. So how do you become an ally? Well, step one is to register. You could visit the link that you see on your screen, which is forwardbusinesscoalition.com/GBA. You can also visit the link forwardbusinesscoalition.com/Global Business Alliance, and it'll take you to the same place. Or you can stick around toward the last 5 or 10 minutes of this call, and I'll be able to help you, kind of walk you through that process of what it looks like. Step two is start generating referrals, right? Once you become an ally is what we refer to the members of our Global Business Alliance. All you have to do is just show up to the meetings, schedule one-on-ones with other allies in the community, and just really to kind of promote your business, right? And then from there, you'll find that, the community itself will bring you referrals, as well as the company, Forward Business Coalition. We have this cool technology called the networking referral system that I might talk about a little bit later. That's designed to help you, you ladies get more referrals and things. So definitely, that's step two. And then the last thing is obviously, grow your business, following up with the referrals, getting in front of people, staying consistent with everything that we talk about. And that's how you, over time, slowly but surely will begin to develop your company. So definitely reach out to us if you want more information. Like I said, you can visit the link or you can stick around for the last 5 or 10 minutes and we'll be able to help you with that. Some free networking resources. We have 2 for you at this moment. We're working on bringing out more. The first thing is our weekly event calendar. So this is, if you visit this link that you see on your screen, which is events.forwardbusinesscoalition.com, that's events with an S, it'll take you to our free event calendar, right? And that's where you'll be able to register for all those free networking events that I mentioned, the real estate, the Canada, the digital marketing Q&A and everything. And those events, by the way, are always free. We never charge for them, just one of the ways that we bring value to the business community. And then the second link on your screen is the same system, the technology that I talked about, which is our networking referral system. And this is a simple way for you to generate more referrals in 5 minutes or less. The only thing you have to do is just fill out a quick application. And then from there, your information will get submitted into our database, and our database will, look for potential matches between other people that are looking for the same thing that you are, right? So the way that you get access to that is by visiting system.forwardbusinesscoalition.com, and it'll take you, directly there. And the last thing is we like to give a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, really our partners, which is my other company called Lapras, which they specialize in world-class advertising, specially designed to rapidly grow brands. And pretty much, if you found these networking events, anywhere online, whether it was on LinkedIn, Alignable, Meetup, Eventbrite, or Schmacebook, whatever the names of the platforms are today, you can pretty much thank Lapras for putting us on there. Lapras is our partner that helps us specifically with digital marketing and helping us to get in front of people, develop our website, our online community platforms, university, and all these different things. So if you'd like more information on how you can rapidly grow your business, Lapras does provide a free 60-minute breakthrough strategy session. where it's like 45 minutes to 60 minutes, where essentially what we do is like walk you through. First, we understand your company, and then we walk you through, at least 3 different marketing strategies designed to help you get the type of results you're looking for specifically, with different timelines, budgets, and things like that. So if you'd like more information about that, you can visit lapris.net. That is lapris.net for more information. All right, welcome, G&G Glory.
I'm sorry, Ina. Yes, I'm representing Glory and Gratefulness.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I've seen some. Yeah, no, pleasure to have you on the call. Is this your first time joining us?
It is my first time.
Amazing. Welcome. We're glad to have you on the call. So you came in at the perfect time. So we're just going to go ahead and jump into our introductions, like around 60 to 90 seconds. I'm going to select people on my screen in no particular order. Looks like we have a lot of people running late. So we're just going to go ahead and let them in as they join us. So the first person I have on my screen here is actually Brenna. So Brenna, if you could please unmute and let us know a little bit about yourself.
You're right, I'm clearing my throat, but thank you, Gabriel. This is my first time joining you all, so I'm super excited to be here. If you can't tell from my cute little background here, I am a certified life coach, but what makes me different is I actually serve young adults ages 18 and up with my one-to-one coaching programs. I often tell people, how many times did you find yourself as a young person being told, oh, we'll just figure it out. Only you can make that decision. We can't tell you what to do, whether it's a parent, an advisor, a mentor, right? But we're so often not equipped with the tools at that stage in our life to actually be able to make those decisions effectively and learn how to bounce back from any mistakes that might happen. So that's where I like to come in and support my clients and be able to help guide them through whatever life challenges they're facing, whether it be they need to make a plan, they need help executing a plan. I've worked with young entrepreneurs, young working mothers, and just people who are looking to organize their life. So I also do consultations with parents so they can get to know me. I do group sessions. Custom for your people. I just recently created a group for middle schoolers, which was super exciting. Not usually who I work with, but they really wanted to bring in that mindset for those younger kids. So anyways, I'll shut up. That's a little bit about me and what I do. I love doing one-to-ones. I'll drop my information in the chat so we can connect.
Amazing. Great intro. Thank you, Brenna. Who would be a good like referral partner to kind of introduce you to? Because I'm kind of like having some, some trouble thinking of some people that I could kind of refer you to.
Yeah, no, great question. So obviously, if you know directly a young adult age 18 and up who maybe just recently graduated and college wasn't the right path, but they're struggling to figure out what to do, or a parent or grandparent of that kind of a student, that's a great referral. I'm open to talking to those parents before I even meet their students so they know who I am and I'm not just some crazy lady talking to their kid. So parents and grandparents are great, school advisors, college advisors, people who work in higher education, all those kinds of people.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That definitely gives me a better idea of people to send you. Thank you so much. All right. Moving on, we will go over to Sarah. Good to see you again.
Hey, good to be here. All right. Oh, sorry, my screen just flipped out. So I call myself an upgrade coach. I focus on those high impact leaders who are making a big difference in the world already, and they want to be able to enjoy more personal freedom. So I find that oftentimes leaders tend to give, and then get exhausted and don't really take the time to replenish themselves, which leads to feeling exhausted, all the things. So I help them learn how to actually do both, where they can enjoy their own life and also be making a difference in the world. I'm glad to be here.
I love that. Yes, it's completely different when you align the passion and the profits together, right? I feel like if you only have one of those two, you have half the equation. But when you combine them, you are a force of nature to be reckoned with. Glad to have you on the call.
Definitely.
Awesome. Thanks. All right, we'll move on to Marilyn.
Well, it's an interesting group for me. So let me just tell you that no matter what people buy, they buy you. That's been said by a very famous sales trainer. So it's personal, particularly on LinkedIn. No matter your brand, and Gabriel, this is for you, people spend millions and millions of dollars on branding. You are the brand. I do personal branding. I'm a LinkedIn done for you profile writer who creates your market dominating position and allows you to be in 2 places at one time because your profile is on 24/7. And right now I'm generating leads on LinkedIn as I'm here with all of you. If you want to know about how to leverage LinkedIn and bring your brand into a market dominating position, I do it for you because you're too close to your forest to see your brand.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you, Marilyn. That's one of the benefits of really working with the consultant, like Marilyn said. If you guys have ever seen like two people arguing, or if you've ever been the person that's arguing with another person, like it's like really hard to kind of like see, whether you're right or you're wrong. But when that third person comes in, they provide you with that, that unique perspective where it's like, you know what, I think we're both wrong, or maybe we're both right, right? You never know, but they can help you. So thank you, Marilyn. Definitely appreciate it. If you haven't posted your contact info in the chat, please go ahead and do so, and we will move on to last but not least, Miss Ina.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here, but I'm not really sure what is this about. What kind of program network business owners, what is exactly your main agenda?
Yeah, so we covered this briefly like before. So this is like this event is called USA Nationwide Business Networking. So this is an event specially designed for business people within the US to establish relationships with other people, promote their business, get referrals, generate some customers and much more.
Okay, like I've noticed it's like already 3 business owner. I'm the fourth one. And then what is the goal for this? Unite the small business or what?
The purpose of this meeting or I'm not sure I understand the question.
No, like everyone introduce own business and then what?
So have you ever been to a networking event before? You know how networking works?
This is what I'm asking. And so what is this?
Okay.
Like I tried to register how it will be beneficial for each of us. So
right.
Everyone is like Sarah presented, I believe Brenda, I will present as my own business. It's the 3-4 different businesses, and then we're all different and we're all busy and we're very kind to everyone. But then
right.
What?
Yeah, so the way that networking works is you essentially get together with a group of people, like the other business people, and you kind of discuss your business, right? You introduce yourself, essentially like your occupation, kind of, what type of work you do, what type of clients you work with and services you provide and all things like that. And then what happens is you will build relationships with other people, right? You'll hit it off with some people while you're doing the networking event, at the networking event. And what will happen is that you will find that people want to support you, right? You'll build like collaboration opportunities. And, these things it's not always like referrals, right? I've seen these things, take on, really a life of their own. Sometimes what you'll find is that other business people on the call will hire you, to work with them, as a VA or whatever type of services you provide. Other times it's more of like a referral partnership where, for example, like Sarah and I have known each other for a while and we've kind of exchanged like referrals for people that we know. Like she's a business consultant. I do a little bit of business consulting. So I might introduce her to like an accountant that I know, right? And then that way she can expose Sarah to kind of her network of people so that she can get, the same thing, more referrals, more sales and things like that. Or, it could, if you have a podcast, I've also seen where people, they meet someone at a networking event and they introduce them to the podcast and they're like, hey, let's have you as a guest where you can, talk about your expertise and things. Does that make sense?
Kind of yes and no.
Okay.
To be honest, like, yeah, I understand what you, but I'm like, for example, if I'm sick and if I have an issues in my business, why would I overload another business represent person, which is also heavy busy?
Well, I mean, I don't really try to overload people, so I wouldn't know, but you just kind of go to these calls and you kind of keep it light. Like you just kind of, it's like meeting people, right? It's like, I don't know. I hate to use like the word like speed dating or something like that, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like you just kind of meet other adults, right? Like other business people that kind of just want to, kind of grow their company and stuff.
Maybe I can roughly then present myself. Sorry, but it was confusion for me. So I'm representing 501c3 nonprofit organization for Ukrainian kids, single mothers and refugees and retired people who left behind in Ukraine. And I try to support some people collecting goods of food and transported it to there, or find partners in Europe to closer location supply to the most critical cities, the basic needs like humanitarian aids, like ibuprofen, some basic needs. Right. So that's my goal, but I'm not sure how it's like, I'm just trying to digest how business, how that's in my mind. I don't get it, how it's related, could be related together.
excuse me, perhaps it would be, she would appreciate being at the nonprofit meeting.
Yeah.
Maybe
So-
that's, I always think maybe this is the wrong meeting for you. There is a meeting, Gabriel, you take it from here, but that's just a thought I had, that maybe
Sure.
the support of other nonprofits would be very beneficial.
Sure.
Mhm.
Thank you, Marilyn. I think you're doing something really important, from your introduction. I think that you're, definitely helping a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people that, need the help that you're providing. But the way that you, I'm trying to like really keep it like fundamental, right? So the way that you would like kind of participate in this event specifically for your type of business is I would just kind of build awareness about it, right? Like, since you're a nonprofit, I would just kind of go to these events and kind of let people know, like, hey, this is what we do, this is what we represent. And if you're interested in supporting our movement, like, definitely reach out to us so that we can, learn more about you. What Marilyn brought up is definitely really important. We do have, so this event specifically is like for for-profit companies. However, we do allow, nonprofits and stuff to come in because, that line is usually kind of a little bit blurred. But to Marilyn's point, we do have a nonprofit event specifically designed for nonprofits, kind of like yourself, 501c3s and everything, and those that are in the process of becoming one right after this call. So I'm not sure if you want to, maybe check out that event and see how it's very similar to this, but just like the type of attendees that we have are a little bit different.
Okay,
but
I'm
yeah,
not sure if I will have, it will be same Zoom link.
A different Zoom link, but I welcome you to just kind of like stick around for a little bit. If you have a few minutes, to stick around, kind of see how it
Thank
is.
you. Yeah, sure. I will be happy to. I actually do
Absolutely.
interested the Brenda presented about the teenager support,
Right.
age 18 plus. That was one of the program for what this will be really amazing, but I'm not sure how to merge together business or something like how we can help each other. But I'm looking for PTSD kids and age like this to go through the program support and program and like more kind and lovable.
Gotcha. I definitely love to help you and, really just kind of walk you through some of the basics of networking. But, because we're like limited on time and stuff and have to be respectful of everyone on the
Sure.
call.
Thank you.
If you want, we can definitely schedule a call, you and myself, and I could just kind of give you some, some fundamentals of stuff I've learned about networking or, however you are. You just
I'll
kind of stick
wait.
around?
I'll wait
Yeah.
for you here as well.
Okay, cool.
Thank
yeah,
you.
definitely. Because definitely if you're brand new to networking, we want you to have a positive experience. And we know that it's not always easy when you first get started. There's a lot of like, not necessarily like there's like unspoken rules that you want to follow and stuff, but the good news is that you're here. So you're putting yourself in a position to succeed, and that's what matters. So, all right, awesome. So everyone had the opportunity to introduce themselves. Didn't skip over anyone. Awesome. Looks like we're missing a lot of people. Let me double check, my email to see where everybody's at and see if we have more people missing. All right, so no one's contacted me yet, so we'll just go ahead and move on. Well, actually, I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. So my name is Gabriel, everyone. If you don't know, my day job, what I tell people is I'm a serial entrepreneur, investor, and philanthropist. So I own 3 companies that most people know me for. Today, specifically, what I'd like to talk about is this company that's hosting this networking event, which is Forward Business Coalition, right? So the thing that got me started as an entrepreneur was when I was 21 years old, I ended up coming across a statistic that said that 80% of businesses fail within 5 years of being started, right? And I was reading that statistic when I was, one day at university in the library reading at nighttime. And that statistic really shocked me because to me, it's like, it's unacceptable that 8 out of 10 people that start a business are going to fail within 5 years. And then after 10 years, 99 out of 100 people fail, right? And so that same night, I made a commitment to myself to dedicate the next 10 to 20 years of my life to solving that problem and flipping that statistic so that at least 80% of businesses succeed. And if you fast forward to today, I consider each one of the companies I've started vehicles that are allowing me to flip that statistic so that, at least 80% of businesses can succeed so we can, help these people. And essentially what we specialize in at Forward Business Coalition is in world-class business development resources, right? We just specialize in business. And what I'd like to bring to your attention is really this promotion, right, that we have going on at Forward Business Coalition, where for the first 30 days, you can try it out for $1. I have seen people go through this program, guys, with my own eyes, and they have generated 100, 200, 300 plus referrals in many cases. 100% of people that have gone through this program have generated referrals. Okay, so this is the real deal. And I know that a lot of people, promise and stuff, but that's why we have this promotion where it's like, look, try it out for 30 days for only $1. And, like we'll put our money where our mouth is, right? Essentially, and just kind of like, kind of walk the talk and stuff. So I just like to invite you, ladies on the call and ladies and gentlemen that are watching this, wherever in the universe you guys are, just kind of, check it out. If you guys want more information, you can visit that link that I mentioned earlier, which is the forwardbusinesscoalition.com/GBA. or /Global Business Alliance, and you'll be able to get more information, or you could just reach out to me directly and I'll be able to, provide you with more information on that. So, all right, thank you, ladies and ladies, for listening to my spiel. We'll go ahead and move on to the next section. So now we have, what we do is we have a exclusive business training specially prepared for you guys. And today, let me just go ahead and pull it up first. Today, we're going to be talking about 10 ways. Wait, am I on the right one? Yeah, 10 ways to evaluate a market. Okay. So I was talking with, I was actually in Southern California a couple of days ago, and I just got back on Sunday. And it's funny because on the plane trip over here, I ended up sitting next to someone who was an entrepreneur. This lady has been an entrepreneur, I think she said, for like 30 years. And she just literally sold her company. She's in education technology. She ended up funding this really amazing company with, a lot of like research and science. It's very interesting. But she ended up selling the company, right? And we were kind of just going back and forth, kind of like sharing war stories and, things that we've been through. And one of the things that really stood out to me is like how entrepreneurs are able to essentially penetrate a market with, in many cases, very little resources, very little awareness, and very little knowledge. And I think that, for me, kind of thinking like as I was talking with her, it was just kind of like, oh, like this is basic stuff. But when I finished and I was like walking through the airport, I was like, yeah, that wasn't always easy for me, right? Like in many cases, it took me a long time to be able to, develop those answers or those strategies and things. So what I wanted to do today is just provide you guys with, at least 10 basic ways that you can evaluate a market to determine whether or not it's profitable for you to, to enter that market. Because we know that, as entrepreneurs, we have tons of opportunities out there, right? Like there's so much opportunity in the world. I don't know how people sleep, right? But it's like, we have to figure out a way how we can prioritize all of these options that we have to narrow down to like, the vital few that will really move the needle forward in our company, right? But how do we identify that, right? So there's different ways that you can do that. But today we're just going to be talking about 10 basic ones. And this advice is pretty much applicable to, especially applicable to someone that's a startup. Like if you're brand new to business and you're just starting a company right now, like this is, rock solid advice that I would definitely encourage you to, begin applying to figure out what type of verticals or what niches or, what industries you can, start targeting so you can make your business profitable and you can achieve that rapid scale. But in addition to that, this also applies to companies that have been around for, 10 years plus, because, the truth is that markets are limited, right? There's only a limited amount of demand in certain industries. And if you are having trouble capturing that, then you can, switch to a different vertical, or you can go after a different market or a different, demographic and stuff. And you can, again, rapidly grow the company while still having, kind of like, right. You have like different irons in fire, I guess is what is like the word is called or something like that, right? So you just essentially, we're just going to talk about 10 different ways to, evaluate some markets, how to identify whether or not it's going to be profitable you and whether it's worth your time, right? And then after that, we can just kind of open up discussion if this kind of makes sense for you or not, and then, see what your thoughts are. So the first one is urgency, right? The first way to evaluate a market is with urgency. How badly do people want or need this, service, product, etc. right now? Because if you there's this good book that I recommend. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. It's called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. And if you don't know who Peter Thiel is, he's actually the co-founder of PayPal. So he worked with Elon Musk when they were both very young, and they, founded PayPal together. And he also did some other stuff. Today he's a venture capitalist. He's worth, I don't know, over $1 billion, like 20-something billion dollars. But essentially what he talked about, one of the lessons that he talked about, he says that if, Facebook were started 10 years earlier, it wouldn't be Facebook. Like it wouldn't have been as successful, right? Well, that's before he became Meta and stuff. Because he says that, for a company or a product or a service to be successful, it has to happen at the right time with the right team. And there has to be a lot of variables that you have to get right in order for it to, really be successful. A great example of this that we're seeing in recent years outside of Facebook is AI, right? Or virtual reality, right? You saw people like in the early 2000s that they invested, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in VR and AI, and then what happened? Nothing, because the market wasn't ready for it, right? The mass consumers weren't ready for that. Now, I mean, the majority of people still aren't ready, but we're beginning to see, the application of AI with like Chat GPT and all these different things, right? Why? Because now it's kind of like a better time for it, right? So you want to ask yourself, right? Like how badly do people want or need this right now, right? Is it an urgent desire for them? And I always usually say, because I obviously do a lot of marketing for companies and stuff. And I always say, right, it's easier to sell ibuprofen to someone that, has an injury as opposed to someone that, they just woke up from a nap or something, right? Because the person that has an injury understands that, that they are in pain, right? So they want the solution now, as opposed to someone that maybe they're going to have a headache, maybe 8 hours from now and they don't realize it, right? So just a simple example. But number two is market size, right? Like I mentioned earlier, so every market, there's a limited amount of demand. that customers have for any given product in any industry, right? And according to statistics, now this is a little bit of background because I've studied this stuff, and what researchers have discovered is that in any given market, only 3% of people are ready to buy at any given time. Only 3%. That means that 97% of people are not ready to buy at any given moment, right? They're either in the discovery phase, or they're in the information phase where they're learning more about it, or they're comparing, they're comparing your products with other people's products and, things like that. And they're going back and forth, or, they're talking to their husband, their wife, their grandma, who knows? They're talking to a million people before they pull the trigger, right? But when it comes to the market size, you have to realize that only 3% of people are ready to buy at any given moment. So even though you might have, the best marketing campaign or the best sales team or whatever it is, again, the demand is limited. So you want to know how many people are actively purchasing something like this, right? Because if you find that people are just talking about it, but they're not really investing into it, it's probably not a good idea, or maybe it's a little bit too early for you. A great example of this is online gaming, right? I remember I talked with this a buddy of mine who he's made a pretty penny from investing in the stock market, right? Like he understands the stock market very well, and he's able to, the same day I've seen him multiply his money, 5x. It's crazy. I don't know how he does it, but one of the things that I remember talking to him, this was probably, I want to say maybe 5 years ago, when like online gaming, really started to take esports is what is an appropriate name, right? Esports, when it first started to take out. And I remember seeing that companies were investing, like Coca-Cola and Red Bull and all these companies, Visa, where it start beginning to invest hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars into esports, that they can get, their promotion, their partnerships, sponsorships, all these different things. And I told them, like, hey, it's early for esports right now. It might be something that you want to consider looking into, so that you can kind of, invest a little bit more into that, because it's an early industry. And a couple of days later, he responded to me. He's like, thanks for the tip. He's like, but nobody's investing right now. He's like, nobody's, putting money into this thing. So he's like, it's just not worth my time, because he's someone that's very risk averse. Like he's not, like gun ho type of person. He likes to see things that prove it, right? He wants to make sure that he's going to get his money back, and, he's an investor. So that's obviously the purpose of an investor. You put in $1 and you get $2 back, tomorrow, whatever it is. So you want to know how many people are actively purchasing things like this, right? It might be that it has a lot of awareness, but nobody's really investing into it, right? Like you see that with a lot of softwares too. Like there's a lot of free online software where it's just free, right? But if you try to monetize it, you're going to get a lot of backlash, and then most people aren't going to want to buy from it. So you want to find one where there's a lot of active people that are purchasing things like this. And there's websites, by the way, if you guys don't know, that you can find information like this, like the BLS, which is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and things like that, right? There's like government websites where you'll be able to find, demand. You can use Google Trends is a good one. I like using Google Trends to, identify kind of how things are trending in the market, whether people are looking into it or they're not. It's a good piece of tool. Next thing is a pricing potential, right? What is the highest price a typical purchaser would be willing to spend for a solution, right? In other words, how much money are they willing to invest into something like this, right? So I usually, I like to give the example, like people ask me, right? When it comes to like branding your company and stuff, right? Is Brett, no, she's still on the call, she left. I was going to talk with Marilyn, but one of the things that people ask me about when it comes to your brand name, right? Like what type of name should I pick for my company, right? And this isn't only for new companies, because I've had established companies that want to rebrand themselves and they don't really know, how to do it. And what I tell them is like, look, when it comes to brand naming specifically, you have two main choices, right? You can either go with a generic brand name, or you can go with a brand name. Now, a generic brand name is like, Harry's Tool Shop, or Bob's, plumbing business, or Jerry's landscaping company, right? Like just by the name, you're able to identify, okay, this is what this person does, right? And the reason that's effective is because consumers today do not have a lot of time and energy and things like that to invest into understanding your company's life story. So if you can communicate the benefits of what your company does in the name, you've already won half the battle, right? Now, the other way to do this is branding, right? So for example, a good example of this is like my company Lapras, right? Where you don't really know what Lapras is, right? Why? Because it's a made up name. So what happens there is that you have to build, credibility, you have to build awareness. It's a lot harder to build it, but once you already have kind of like that snowball rolling, it's a lot easier for you to be profitable with a brand than it is with a generic brand. Or with the other kind of way that another way that I compare this is branding and commodities, right? So if you look at Amazon is more of like a commodity where they're competing on price, right? Like they have algorithms and they have technology where if you're selling, this coffee cup for $1.39, like they're coming in at $1.38, right? Like it's like literally that cutthroat. I look at that as a commodity, right? You're competing on price. Brands compete more on value, right? So what you want to do when you're entering into a market is you want to identify like, how are we positioning ourselves? Well, hopefully you're not thinking about it when you're entering the market. Hopefully you've already thought about this before when you've established a business, but you should know, like, are we entering as a brand or are we entering as a commodity? And by, identifying which one of those two sides of the spectrum you're leaning more toward, you can kind of, this isn't the best way, if I'm being honest, to be able to determine your pricing model, but it kind of gives you a generic overview, right? Like a general overview, like, okay, we're gonna be a little bit higher price point or we're gonna be a little bit lower price point. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Like, there's different consumers out. Personally, I hate cheap things. Like, I cannot stand products that do not deliver on what they like. If you give me a coffee machine and it breaks down like in 2 days, like I that's one way, like that's a pet peeve of mine, right? Like products and technology and things that do not work. So I'm the type of person that I'm willing to invest in a brand, right? I'm willing to invest a little bit more money because I know that it's going to work, right? So there's different consumers. You just want to figure out, what you're going after and how to position yourself, kind of how I believe Marilyn said a little bit earlier. So number 4, and by the way, if you guys are taking notes, that's awesome, but I can also provide you with a copy of this PowerPoint, so you guys have this for your records. Number 4 is cost of customer acquisition. So this is a very important metric. I don't want to take up too much time. So this is a very important metric that you should know in your company. Essentially, if you are ever looking to get funding from your company, whether from a bank or a private investor, or if you're even looking to sell your company at some point, one of the first questions that they will ask you is, what is your customer acquisition cost? In other words, how much money does it cost for you to be able to generate a new customer on demand? And you should be able to know this. For example, in my company Lapras, we know that, for certain companies that we're running, Google ads or Facebook ads for, like a consultant, we know that, for example, it costs $138 to be able to generate a brand new customer that didn't know you. In other words, it took $138 to convert a complete stranger into a paying customer for you. But, the cost of the service is $2,000, right? So in other words, you're definitely making a profit, right? But it does cost you $138 to be able to generate a new customer, at least using that method. So you want to understand that, right? For many reasons. I mean, for accounting, for strategy, for different types of things. But definitely that's one of the ways that you can identify, because you'll find that some industries will be more difficult to get into. Like, it's harder to get into like biotech, generally speaking. Like it's more expensive to get into like biotech than it is to maybe get into like landscaping or something, right? Because it's just a little bit more accessible. So you definitely want to take that into consideration. Number 5 is the cost of value delivery. In other words, how much would it cost to create and deliver the value offered, both in money and effort, right? So it's not always like money that you have to take into consideration. Sometimes it's like the headache of getting into something, or like the process that you have to get into something, right? Like, for example, the financial industry is incredibly profitable, but it's very complex in that there's a lot of regulations and things. So maybe it's not going to cost you a lot of money, but it will cost a lot of time or a lot of effort or energy or resources to be able to just get your foot in the door that, maybe you're just better going off with, something else. Or maybe that is the right step for you because you're creating like a moat, right? Like you're making it harder for people to compete with you, right? But essentially you want to take that into consideration. How much will it cost us to be able to create and deliver our offer to these people, right? Number 6 is uniqueness of offer. So how unique is your offer versus competing offers in the market? And how easy is it for potential competitors to copy you, right? In today's market, you definitely need to be unique. Like, if you're average, that's not good enough anymore, because we're competing with people all over the world. I talk about this like, I sound like a broken record sometimes, because like really, if you really want to be profitable in today's market, you have to be outstanding. You have to be remarkable. You have to be so good that people can't ignore you. And if you're just average, you're just going to be like everyone else, where you're competing for those scraps, right? So what you want to do is you want to have a really unique business, a really unique offer, and a unique value proposition where you speak with people that are like, you know what? I need exactly what Brenda's offering. I need what Sarah's offering. I need what they're offering, because, I've never seen it done that way, or I've never seen people deliver those results that fast, or whatever it may be, right? And especially when it comes to competitors today, I don't really believe in competition. That's like a different story, but, it's definitely important to have a unique offer, right? Number 7 is speed to market. There will be some cases where, so this is my approach, right? And Peter Thiel agrees with me, actually, the guy I mentioned earlier. So what you want to do is, if you are not at least an exponent ahead of your competitors, it's probably not worth, getting ahead. So if you guys don't know what exponent is, it's like 1 to the 10th power, right? It's like to the 10th power, right? If you're not one exponent ahead of your competitors in whatever you're trying to do, it's definitely not worth getting into that industry. I'll tell you right now, if you like, I'm not saying like from the beginning, right? Like in day one, like if you're not like an exponent ahead, like that's not what I mean. Like, I mean, like if you can get to the place where eventually you're not at least an exponent ahead of your competitors, it's not worth getting into, right? There's a lot of things, like Warren Buffett calls us your circle of competence, but essentially the reason behind that is if you if someone knows your industry better than you do, then you should probably leave that industry. Like there are very few people in this world that know marketing better than I do. I'm not saying that because I'm cocky or anything. Believe me, I literally put in the work to learn every single specialization of marketing. There are over 200 different types of advertising. If you ask me about any of them, I can give you advice on every single one of them. And that's because I know my industry, right? But you need to know your industry so well that it's like, it doesn't matter where you're coming from, dude. Like you can't compete with me, right? Like I just dominate this industry, man. You know what I mean? All right, just moving forward. Number 8, upfront investment. How much will you have to invest before you're ready to sell? A lot of people started business with the intention to sell the company. Although if you look historically at the companies that have been most successful, we're talking about companies like Amazon, companies like Target, like Starbucks, like all these different businesses, Best Buy. You'll find that the majority of them were not started with the intention of selling. They were started with the intention of creating value for their customers long term. And that's where they're so successful, right? They didn't have an exit strategy. They had a commitment strategy. In other words, where are we going to be 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, right? Like look at companies like General Electric. It's one of my absolute favorite companies. Number 5 is upsell potential. Are there related secondary offers that you could also present to purchasing customers? Now, we talked about CAC, right? Customer acquisition cost, which is one of the most valuable metrics that you should know in your business. Here's another metric for you guys. It's called CLTV, right? Or CLV. It depends, same thing, it's interchangeable. But CLTV and CLV stands for customer lifetime value. In other words, if a customer spends 10 years being a customer, or if an individual spends 10 years being a customer of your business, how much money can you expect to make from that person over the duration of your relationship with them? Right. So if, for example, if you have a customer for 10 years and every year they invest $100, you know that every single customer is worth $1,000 to you, right? But what if you can multiply that? What if you can introduce more offers, kind of like McDonald's has like the burger, but they also offer the fries and soda, right? What if you could take that initial 1,000, you can multiply it to 5,000? That's one of the things we specialize in my company, Lapras, right? Increasing that customer lifetime value. And it's definitely one of the metrics that you should know, because it's easier to sell to existing customers than it is to get new customers. And if you can monetize that in a better way, you have a better business model. You have a better business model, you have a greater chance of your business succeeding. All right, last one, evergreen potential. Once the initial offer has been created, how much additional work will you need to put in order to continue selling? Some of the, it's crazy. I'm a little bit jealous, but I'm kind of not, because I'm not really a jealous person. But one of the things that I see that I'm kind of like, it's like, it really caught my attention, where it's like, there's these people that are able to generate, for example, like a ebook or something, or like an online course, and, little simple things like this. And they just create it once and they set it and forget it, right? They just create some ads and a landing page, and they just kind of run ads to it every single day. And then they're, making money pretty much on demand, right? Now, obviously there is no such thing as 100% residual income where you just kind of set it and forget it. There's always like, the breakdown of things, and eventually you have to check in and, improve it and stuff. But that's one of the things that really stood out to me. Because, for example, if you look at, let's say this ebook, right? This isn't an ebook, but let's say I have this ebook, right? Like if it only took me one time to be able to create this and write it and everything, that's it. There's really very little resources that I need to invest in order to get this product into the hands of more people, because it's a digital product, right? So that's kind of like a really basic example, but you want to look at, once I create this offer, like how much work do I need to do for new customers in order to continue selling this product? Like if you're one of our clients at Lapras, they design pools, they're pool builders. They do pool construction, pool reconstruction, remodeling and things. Like for them, they have to literally go to the pool every single time. They have to have technicians there every single time and stuff, right? I'm not saying it's a bad business model. I'm just saying it, that's how it is. But so that's kind of, what you want to look at. 10 ways to evaluate a market. Anyone have any feedback? Sorry, I know I talked a little bit. All right, what thoughts do you guys have, or feedback can you share with us? Here, I'm going to share this with you guys in the chat so you can download it. By the way, I recommend downloading it if you can while you're in the call, because I've seen people try to download it after and it doesn't always work. Like you could save the chat, but I don't think it saves the same. So it's uploading now. But yeah, what questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, feedback do you guys have about today's training?
It's helpful for sure. Lots of information to think about. I think it's going to vary. Certainly, some of those different bullet points are going to vary per strategy and per industry, but really good frame of reference for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to provide, like kind of like an overview. Yeah, there's definitely nuances to that. Yeah. And, I think the first step is always self-awareness, right? Like knowing yourself first before you try to execute any strategy. But, hopefully this provides you a little bit more more guidance on that. Anyone else want to add something?
I was going to put in the first and last points hit home with stuff that I'm working on for my business, like the urgency, especially. So many people in marketing have given me that, right? Like, oh, I only have X amount of sessions this week to potentially onboard you or get you the information on why you need my services or my product. So I appreciate that was the first point because it's so relevant no matter your industry, no matter your product or service. And then the last point about evergreen potential and like, how can you upsell? How can you keep them around or even use that as an opportunity to introduce them to your higher, ticket offers? So interesting that those are all looping in when I'm researching them for my own business.
You were meant to be here. So yeah, but there's a fine distinction between urgency and scarcity, right? So for example, urgency is like, take action now because this offer ends on Wednesday. Scarcity is we only have 5 sessions left. You know what I mean? I recommend using both of them. Are you guys familiar with cognitive biases, by the way? Psychological biases and stuff. Yeah, that's one of the ways that, it could really take your marketing from kind of dull and like average to like really high performance. Charlie Munger, he's a business partner of Warren Buffett. Together, these guys have a combined net worth of over like $100 billion. What he says is like, when you combine 7 of these cognitive biases with people, what happens is it creates what's called a Lollapalooza effect, right? It's a funny word, Lollapalooza effect. And what happens is that when people are in a state like that, it's very difficult for them to say no to your offer, right? Obviously, you want to do this ethically, but an example of this is like auctions. Like if you go to an auction, like I don't go to auctions for the same reason. Warren Buffett doesn't go to auctions for the same reason, because there's a lot of psychological biases that are working against you, right? First off, you have the person at the front, which is like the authority bias, right? You have a countdown timer, which creates urgency. There's people that are voting against you, which creates, that social proof or that competitiveness, right? We have and then we have the contrast. Like there's a lot of like things that are working against you, but you want to use this for your business, right? You don't want to be used like by it. So definitely, yeah, I encourage you to, use urgency, use scarcity, and look up some of those other psychological biases. Because if you implement them in your company and your marketing, it'll definitely make it a lot more effective. All right. Anything else before we wrap up? Got a few minutes left. If there's nothing else, we could just kind of open up the discussion to you guys to talk about, any testimonials or big wins that you guys have going on in your company, or just in general, if you guys have any success stories that you kind of just like to share with us, or if you have like a limited promotion that you guys are kind of working on right now, like a campaign or something, definitely let us know. Does anyone have any kind of like success stories, big wins, promotions? No? Okay, you guys need some marketing help. You guys got to call me. I'm playing.
Let me catch up
let's
with
see,
the
big
prospects
wins.
this week and I'll get back to you.
Sorry, what was that?
Here you go.
I was gonna say I've got a couple prospects this week, so let me score them and then I'll get back to you.
Definitely, you're gonna rock it. You're gonna rock those meetings.
I had the opportunity to be at a networking event, and I'm doing it 2 more times, where they break up into small groups, like breakout rooms, and I was able to coach live in the breakout room, and that was a lot of fun. So I would consider that a big win. It's my first time doing that.
Yes, that's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah. Did you feel a little bit uncomfortable? Were you like a little nervous, or you're like, I got this? No,
I've been doing groups for 20 years. So
okay,
I was like, this is amazing to be able to do it in that format.
Yeah, definitely. We actually, our Global Business Alliance, we meet every Monday, like at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm not sure if you would like to be like a speaker at one of we're always looking for speakers, they can talk about like their expertise and stuff. So not sure if that's something you'd be interested in.
Okay. Yeah, that would be cool.
All right, cool. Let me make a note and I will reach out to you so we could talk a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. I think Ina said something in the chat. Ina says, the givebutter.com, we are running these companies. So I'm not sure if that's your big win. All right. So yeah, we'll go ahead.
I'm going to say campaign. I'm on the second line at work, still doing this. I'm saying that we run in the campaign of that, and I provide URL link. You mentioned you want to share with somebody, so I provided.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. All right. How was your first networking event, Ina? Did you like it?
It was you speaking too fast. You speaking like my son, and I know that. I said, like, come on, slow down. No, mama, you have to keep up with me. It's like, no, you have to keep up with me. So yeah, I mean, some people is like really already because they're overwhelmed with other information, it's like, and you speaking too fast. I mean, I'm missing a lot, honestly. because I feel like it's getting like phonetic background and losing the point. But
Gotcha.
it was informative.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I wish I could speak Ukrainian. I'm still learning. I only speak 3 languages, so I'm in the process.
I'm speaking 3 languages as well, but when you run in lots of stress, your brain is not capable to speed up keep up with the other speed,
That's
other
very true.
person, because you're already under stressed.
Yes. Yeah.
Mode.
Stress is the enemy, right? I always try to I'm not trying to
No,
avoid
Russia
stress.
is enemy who has created this stress.
Yeah,
We will say that way.
sure.
Sorry for philosophy, but it's just complicated. It's a politics.
It's all right. We just try to avoid political talks, here on these
Yeah.
calls. I'm open to
Yeah.
it. I love, philosophical discussion and stuff, but time and place. But anyway, thank you for participating. I'm glad that you showed up to today's meeting, and we definitely look forward to staying in touch with you so that we can figure out what we can do to help you out with your, your positive
Yeah.
feedback.
Would you like me to stay here, or how you will transfer me to another group?
What I'll do is I'll go ahead and put the link for the nonprofit event that we have going on right now. I'll post it in the chat if you guys are interested. It's
Yes,
literally
please.
starting in 6 minutes. So
All right. And do you think I will be easy to log in?
sure, yeah.
Sign up for free.
Yeah, you just click the link and it'll take you straight to this place.
Oh, it's asking my age of birth. Oh my gosh.
No, I shouldn't ask you that. So
Okay.
maybe I don't know if that's Zoom. That's definitely not us. We don't ask your age.
All right. Thank you so much.
You got it. So we'll go ahead and wrap up, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us for another session of USA Nationwide Business Networking. It was a pleasure being with you here. We're missing a lot of people, so if you join us again next Tuesday, we'll most likely have more people. Not sure where everyone kind of showed up, but thank you for being here. We will definitely see you in the next week's event, same place, same time. Let me just go ahead and put the link for you guys to register for next week's event.
Thank you.
You guys got it. Make sure to save the chat before you leave, and I wish you a great rest of your week.
Thank
Take care,
you, you too.
Thanks.